fly and nice. You got the Western Conference champions over here. Obviously, Brian Farnsworth. I'm John Root. Welcome to the Breakaway live show on YouTube. I need to tell you this right off the bat. This is the last time, Brian, and everybody listening, that we are going to be on Turning Point USA's YouTube when we go live Breakaway on Wednesdays. So you got to head on over to the Breakaway YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that bell, ding, 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 and you're going to get some sports time. Best non-woke sports talk and conversation on YouTube, on the interwebs, everywhere. All right? And also, you got to make sure you're subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you're subscribing on the Spotify podcast. We're also on Rumble if you want to join us there. I think we're going to try to put some links in the comments, but it's going to be a heck of a show. All right, we're going to start out with this. I had a Sunday conversation with the founder of Save Women's Sports, Beth Stelzer. So she was talking about what her and so many incredible activists are doing around the country to make sure they're protecting and saving women's sports. They travel across the country to so many different events because it's not just about Leah Thomas and this one swim meet. So I talked to her outside of the NCAA Division I Swimming Championships when I was out in Atlanta. Also, TBUSA Live, tbusa.com/live. You got culture talk, you got politics, you got entertainment, all that good stuff. It's a lot of fun. All right, so here's today's show. So UNC, holy smokes, Brian. I swear, I am the worst at picking teams because basically 4 of my favorite teams have had some of the most epic collapses in the history of sports. We're going to break down UNC. Where does that rank on that list?
We're going to talk about some of those other collapses, too.
Oh, we're going to talk about the all-time rankings. It's so bad. Lakers, is this LeBron's biggest failure of his entire career? Potentially. We got Gary Sheffield Jr. from Outkick.com that's going to join us. That's going to be amazing. I know I've been talking to him for a little while. Like, we got to get you on, dude. Let's
Absolutely. Go. And also, Tiger is back, and we couldn't be more excited. And, of course, we're going to hit you with some of our spicy hot takes today. You're going to want to stick around for that.
All right. So we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to do a coin toss. Usually, I'm going to jump out firing. I do want to talk about North Carolina, but I think we're going to try to make it fair. We got new OT rules and everything. And both of us are going to get the ball.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to call it in the air. 3, 2, 1.
Tails never fails.
Tails.
Tails, all right.
You can either get it or you can defer to me.
Okay, our second segment is going to be on the Lakers, and I wore black to celebrate the Lakers' funeral today, so I'm going to defer and get first hit at the Lakers. John, you go on UNC.
Okay, here's the deal, everybody. Everyone's wondering, you're a Bay Area kid, why do you like the North Carolina Tar Heels? So when you don't have any family connections to college sports at all, you got to just pick. You know, I love the Vince Carters, the Antoine Jamisons. Obviously, Michael Jordan was an absolute beast. Loved watching him growing up. My brother was a North Carolina fan, about 3 years older than me, and then I was like, all right, I'm a UNC fan. I've been a fan ever since I'm a kid. So now I got some credibility here. My heart has been ripped out. I put some money down on UNC. I put my heart on the line with UNC. They had a 16-point lead. Baycott basically playing on one leg like he's a pirate captain or something like that, but still getting boards, beasting. Manic was hitting shots. You had RJ looking good. Caleb Love was still doing his thing, and it looked like UNC was still in control. And they were dominating that first half. And then what I think happened, I think this is definitely a massive excuse because there's no way you should be blowing a lead like that. Kansas, I think they were wildly underrated going into the tournament. But you got
underrated. They were a 1 seed.
But underrated as a 1 seed. Because there was like how many?
Isn't that an oxymoron? Underrated as a 1 seed.
No, like no one's talking about them winning the championship. Like no, like you had literally every single expert that you turned into like Kenny, Chuck. All those people, whether you're on CBS, TNT, everyone's like, yeah, they were a 1 seed and they deserved it, but I mean, I didn't pick them to win. I think what was like.
You're doing Chuck a disservice though, because Chuck made it one of his locks once it got down to it. Granted, Chuck didn't pick Kansas from the get-go.
No,
I'm saying once it came down to UNC versus Kansas, Chuck said he rarely does this. I think it's only the 4th time he's done this in the last little bit, where he gave it a lock of Kansas will win this game, and they did. So keep Chuck's name out your mouth.
Dude, I want to smack that guy sometimes. I want to walk up to the stage and just boom.
See, I'm a Sir Charles guy. Phoenix Suns.
Dude, if he ever said anything about my hair, take it, Chuck. Also, too, know what I would do? I would go up there with Skip Bayless's wife, and I'd smack him. Boom, because you know Skip Bayless's wife. We covered that on a previous show.
She thinks Chuck's trying to kill him. Oh, man.
What a crazy world. Crazy, crazy world. But
who's crazier, Jada or Skip Bayless's wife?
I mean, I'd have to say Jada right now because she's the person that's in the news all the time.
I'm going Skip Bayless's wife.
Like, that's still like pretty crazy, but like I would need to know more about Mrs. Bayless. So my excuse for UNC, which I don't think they deserve any excuse whatsoever. Holy smokes. They had 5 starters. They're basically, that team was all about their 5 starters. They are playing all the minutes. They are rolling through the tournament. They were an 8 seed. They shocked me. I thought they would make it to the Sweet 16 and then lose.
Yeah.
I had in one bracket them going to the Elite 8. But they continue to surprise people. They had the best college basketball transfer in Brady Manick, guy that looks like an absolute Amish person. Looks like he'd probably fit in the Bay Area or LA as a homeless person. But, dude, that guy can shoot the deep ball. 5 of their starters played 1,056 of the possible, get this, Brian, 1,200 minutes in the NCAA tournament. So
see, that matters because teams that get to play together, it really does help. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll come up with Lakers, but no, being able to really develop chemistry as a team, it really is an underrated value of how well you can perform in a tournament setting.
And then also, too, I think you got Hubert Davis that deserves a heck of a lot of credit. First-year coach, able to have a dominating performance against Duke at Coach K's last game at Cameron Indoor. He absolutely dismantled that place.
Yeah.
And that would just knock the emotion out. It ruined Coach K's casting call. And then he did it again. He ruined Coach K like at the end. But Coach K will give some respect and a shout out to him. But UNC, we should be talking about. I should be wearing that right now. I should have my UNC hat on. I should be just absolutely in everybody's face. UNC, nobody thought we'd do it. And we did it. And we didn't do it.
Yeah, well, and so, John, but you're saying you should be doing that. The reason you aren't is because they blew like a 15-point lead, which for the tournament, 16, woof. The largest championship, a point deficit blown in history of the tournament. So where does that, like for you, where does that rank all time among collapses? Because you know a thing or two about collapses.
Man, I know a thing or two about collapses. I'm going to give you a breakdown of pain. You know, you have seen that Will Smith meme that just says pain, and he's just looking off. That is me. But all time, I think I'm going to put UNC right now. If I'm going to have a top 5, UNC is going to be at 5.
Okay.
UNC, so biggest blown lead once again. And then everybody, too, if you're watching or listening, get out a pen and paper, write these down, okay? Because this is absolutely depressing to have to go over. So biggest blown lead in NCAA men's basketball championship history. Number 4, we got opening day for baseball starting tomorrow. One of the most storied rivalries, Yankees and Red Sox. Do you remember the 2004 American League Championship Series, Brian?
Of course I do, because they had Curt Schilling, and Curt Schilling was, formerly Arizona Diamondbacks. So I was rooting for my guy. Also a great Patriot, by the way, Curt Schilling.
They got reverse swept. They were up 3-0. And obviously that was basically, you heard so much about the Bambino curse.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Red Sox were able to break that with obviously winning the World Series eventually. But like that reverse sweep against the team that spends the most money in baseball, and that was the first time ever.
It's crazy
that there had been a reverse sweep. So that's the ALCS too. This isn't just some wild card game. This is the big one to go to the World Series. So I'd put that at number 4. I do have if you're okay with it, I got a 4A, if that's okay.
Okay, I'll take it. I mean,
speaking of
cheating.
I know. It's all right. But I have heard if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Thanks, Leah. And Sharks reverse sweep. So they were up 3-0. I will never, ever forget this. And obviously, for people that know me and my background, for everybody tuning in, I worked for the Sharks for just about 5 seasons. I grew up a Sharks fan. Grew up an A's fan. I'm a Bay Area guy, and I've already broken down my other teams. They were dominating this series. I was actually interning at NBC Sports Bay Area when it used to be called Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area. And you lose one game, you're like, okay, you're up 3-1. You lose another one, and then you just know momentum is shifted. So that was another reverse sweep. That broke my heart. Number 3, some of you might not even been alive for this one. 1992 AFC wildcard game.
It's a wild card game. I wouldn't have been alive because I was born in September of '92.
I was born in October of '91, and you better believe that
John Root.
I was probably on my mom's lap watching this absolute collapse. So
explain this collapse to me because I don't really know the '92 AFC wild card game.
So the Oilers blew a 32-point lead. 32-point lead. So obviously the wild card, you're still in the playoffs, pretty much. It's pretty much like the play-in, just like what the NBA has right now.
Yeah.
They also did have a 28-3 lead at one point. So epic collapse there, and the Bills were able to beat the Oilers. Number 2. People, you have to realize how hard this is for me to bring up all of these because I have so many emotional ties to all this. Number 2, 2016. Golden State Warriors, the best team in basketball, had a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Against LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers just could not figure out the Warriors. We knew the Warriors were the better team, and they blew it. Everybody remembers the LeBron chase down block. You got to think of that too. Like, all these epic moments, LeBron chase down block, my heart shatters every single time I see that. I'm going to see the UNC one all the time. All next season, that's all you're going to hear about. And this didn't break my heart as much because there was so much success, and I was extremely spoiled being a Warriors fan. But still, like, you want to be known as the greatest team of all time.
Because that was the 73 and 9 year.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
exactly. So that's where, as a fan, you're like, all right, perfect. My team, 73 wins. No one's ever done that before. This is the golden team. You're going to go through, beat LeBron, who everybody wanted to see LeBron get beat in the finals, except for
the city of Cleveland. Well, no, you got a lot of LeBron stands all over the place. What really I will always go back to in remembering that finals was the reason why there was even a comeback is because there was a turning point. Yeah, nice.
Oh.
No, but there really was. There was a real turning point in the series, and it was Draymond. Draymond had been a nutcase for a while. He's a great player, don't get me wrong. And I think off the court, he's a really, really stellar human being. However, he was going through this weird time in his basketball career where he was kicking people. And it was just insanity. The reason why I am so impassioned on it is because when the Suns were terrible at this point, we had Marquise Chris, who was a young, raw prospect. He kicked Marquise Chris in the hand. His hand swelled up and was like the size of a freaking grapefruit. So that's why nobody can ever tell me he wasn't kicking people. It was so obvious he was. And because obviously the whole narrative turned around of why the hell is Draymond Green kicking people? And so he does that weird, and LeBron provoked him into it, and he tries to trip LeBron. And boom, not only does that technical get him ejected from the game, but he gets suspended from the next game. And it completely altered the series.
It was a joke. It was an absolute joke. I know you got to be able to, take care of guys that are kind of just wild, but that totally altered the series. And
100%.
And I think for me, you can't make a call like that in the finals.
I go on the other side. Draymond, don't do it. Be more in control of who you are.
But 100%, I'll just put my tinfoil hat on. 100%, this is what the NBA wanted. They wanted, I don't think they thought that there would be a comeback like
won
that.
7 games.
But they wanted to alter the series, and they wanted LeBron to win this, and they wanted this rivalry to be so heated once again, heading into the next season. Cleveland, I think that was a joke.
This one's for you.
I want it. All right, and number 1, holy smoke.
Could it be anyone else?
All right, everybody. When I was 8 years old, I made the worst decision of my entire life. I decided to become an Atlanta Falcons fan. And that was the 99 Super Bowl. They got smoked by the Denver Broncos. My brother ties into this one, too. He was a Broncos fan. First game he ever went to was a Broncos game. So I'm like, all right, sibling rivalry. I do not want my brother's team to win.
Is Elway still playing?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
So Terrell Davis and everything. But, you know, I ended up becoming a Falcons fan. I like the colors. The logo seems cool. And then
Pretty rad.
I was waiting for them to get to the Super Bowl. 28-3 lead. They're up 28-3 in the fourth quarter. And they blow it. I wanted to torture myself this week, Brian, so I decided to watch some of the highlights. Once again, remind myself, I think you can learn the best when you look at the past. Sometimes I'll do that with relationships, Brian. It's kind of depressing. Here, this is no doubt the biggest collapse in the history of American pro sports. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a Falcons fan, a Warriors fan, a Sharks fan, and I'm a fan of UNC. I hurt.
You should become an Oilers fan now, too.
Oh, my gosh. It's terrible. But one thing I'll mention before we get in, Gary Sheffield Jr. from Outkick.com to talk about how this could potentially be LeBron's biggest failure of his career. I'm interested to see what Gary's going to say about that. Everyone wants to know, where's UNC going to go from here? I think UNC is still – they're going to be ranked, I'm guessing, depending on what their recruiting class, potentially top 10. Hubert Davis and everything that was done, I think they did a great job. RJ and Baycott are going to be back, it sounds like.
Oh, that's good.
That's what it sounds like, at least right now.
Yeah.
Caleb Love, I think he's going to go to the draft. And I think, obviously, you've talked about this a little bit, too. Yeah. I think his stock is rising. And then I think
Manic's got to go.
Yeah, Manic's gone. Manic had a great year. Transfer from Wisconsin once again. UNC, I hope they figure it out. But I think they can. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with Duke. Virginia Tech had some success in the ACC tournament. I think UNC is going to be the team to beat in the ACC.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great for UNC because you worry about the passing of the torch from Roy Williams to Hubert Davis. You never know what's going to happen. And Hubert Davis just had one of, if not the greatest first year as a NCAA basketball head coach ever. I mean, that program, like as a UNC fan, you should be so pumped because you guys are going to get recruits. Hubert Davis is that guy. No, you guys got a bright future. But you know who might not have a bright future are the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, it's rough. And I think we got Gary on the line right now, Gary Sheffield Jr. from Outkick.com. Gary, you wrote an article about Frank Vogel. It sounds like he is on the way out, and the Lakers have been an absolute dumpster fire. What do you think? And then, Gary, I think you might be muted right now. I think you're still muted. I think we're still muted right now. We'll try to get Gary on the line. Get that. Still not hearing you right now. We'll get Gary on though, because Gary does a great job at Outkick.com, and he wrote a great article about Frank Vogel, and talking about how where did we go wrong here? I think we talked about at times like LeBron is he like the best GM? I don't know. Gary, are we working now?
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah,
Gary, we got you, baby. Let's go.
Beautiful. All right, cool.
Gary, tell us about your article about Frank Vogel and what you thought about the Lakers this season.
Yeah, it seems like they wanted him to be a magician. And Frank Vogel, that's the thing about coaching LeBron is that he's not part of the problem. And I've always told people that LeBron is going to help you build a roster. He's a win-now player, but he made a mistake when he brought in Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook was a guy who needs just 4 or 5 shoot. He honestly needs 4 shooters around him. He can't shoot the ball, and the fit made no sense at all. Like the fit didn't make sense in LA. So when I saw even Anthony Davis come into LA, I was like, the fit could be better for LeBron in terms of finding a guy who can shoot the ball. I can find other fits like a Klay Thompson or a Steph Curry make more sense in terms of a fit. Or what you see in Miami with Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero makes more sense for a guy like LeBron. But they had a dude like Anthony Davis come into town. It worked for 1 year, but his biggest flaw is he cannot stay on the court. That guy cannot stay healthy. And I wrote about Frank Vogel because I always knew this guy was going to be the scapegoat at some point. They were going to act like he couldn't coach this team. And I promise you guys, you can't say that someone's a bad coach if you couldn't even make the playoffs. Like, you're not just going to put a team who didn't even make the playoffs and then bring in even Phil Jackson and tell me that you're going to go win a title. So, yeah, I feel bad for Frank Vogel in a sense, but at the same time, he knew what he was getting into.
Yeah, now, Gary, I've seen a couple names are being floated around, Quinn Snyder, Doc Rivers. Vogel, obviously, he's going to be out. We all know that. But who do you see the Lakers targeting as being the next? Because obviously, it's such a premier job. It's the Lakers' job. Who do you think they go after?
I mean, that's a good question. I honestly couldn't tell you because LeBron has shown he's willing to ride with new coaches. I mean, we saw with Eric Spoelstra. A lot of people said that in Miami they might get rid of Spoelstra and bring in a guy that LeBron's more comfortable with. But the one thing that LeBron knows he can do with a coach who maybe has something to prove going into a situation is that he can control them. And LeBron loves to control. And oftentimes it works because we have to give him credit. He's won 4 NBA titles, so he's been very successful in terms of team success. But at the same time, there's no telling who exactly is going to be there for the Lakers.
Yeah, that's my issue here. Is you're not going to get a pushover. Like, you're going to want a good coach, but it's someone that obviously LeBron can manipulate. And then he's towards the end of his career, Gary, so we know everything is about legacy. He had a brand new legacy with Space Jam. That didn't turn out well. He got voted worst actor for that. But he's constantly thinking about, where am I going to rank all time? Is there any chance that I can find some other ring? But when we look back at LeBron's career, is this maybe his biggest failure of his career?
No, not necessarily, because people are going to remember this as a Russell Westbrook deterrent. I mean, Russell Westbrook is going to be a guy who's looked at as a player who was an anomaly physically, and he wasn't able to help really any player. Kevin Durant left Russell Westbrook at the altar for Golden State, and it essentially looks like the cast of characters. Anthony Davis is going to be known as an injury-prone superstar, and LeBron, for the most part, you're going to forget about all this stuff. It's just the way it is. You remember the highs, and people tend to forget the lows as time goes on.
Yeah.
And we don't remember Michael Jordan losing to Orlando or Michael Jordan breaking his foot. People remember the good times. And that's the thing that's going to happen with LeBron. I think he knows that.
Then I got a follow-up question for that then is so many people talk about the NBA bubble, Gary. Is they had that win. Everyone's trying to see this is the Mickey Mouse ring. And then they lost to the Suns early in the playoffs. And then now they didn't make the playoffs. So was the bubble kind of a fluke, or was that just kind of like these guys were good for one season, they just never had the longevity that we thought they would?
No, it was the roster construction was much better than people give them credit for, because they had guys like a lot of glue guys like Alex Caruso and guys who could spread the floor, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They really underrated the value of those guys, and they got rid of all of them so that they can go get Russell Westbrook. The move made no basketball sense. And then when you combine moves that make no basketball sense with Anthony Davis's injury proneness, this is what is the final result of that. And this is why ultimately I said either the Lakers are going to end up dealing AD for a player like Damian Lillard, who's obviously going to be entering year 32 of his life, who potentially is going to want to join a contender, or another player in the league. If they can't deal Anthony Davis for another star to pair with LeBron, I can see him leaving.
I absolutely think they have to change up something. I think back to LeBron's, age 22 season when he leads just a really untalented team, if we're being honest, to the finals against the Spurs. LeBron put that team on his back. Obviously, we know LeBron's a bucket. He can go score. He can. He's going to be the scoring. He's going to get the scoring title
potentially. And B just took him over last night.
I think LeBron's going to come back in to win it. But have we passed the era? I mean, he had the longest prime of anybody I've ever seen play the game. Have we passed the time of LeBron being able to just put a team on his back and will it to the playoffs, or is this just a uniquely bad situation?
No, LeBron can still carry. The issue for LeBron now is health, and it's starting to catch up, and you start to see how LeBron could turn an ankle in years past and be back on the floor the next week. Well, when you're 37 years old, things don't recover the same way. But in terms of physical skill set, LeBron is just about as good as he's ever been. This guy can still score 45, 55 points in a game. And honestly, his days of carrying are just not over, because even with those rosters that we've said are just horrible, even in 2007, the rosters were built to shoot around him. They weren't great players or even good players, but they did have an ability to catch and shoot the basketball. A team of Russell Westbrook, Malik Monk, and Stanley Johnson, that's like a new level of bad for LeBron James. And he's never played with guys who are bad fits and bad players. And he's doing both. And you start to see the results of that.
Is that LeBron's fault or Pelinka's fault?
It's both. It's definitely, and this is any roster move that you see around the league. If the Golden State Warriors end up doing a sign and trade with D'Angelo Russell and Kevin Durant, all those moves go through Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond. And LeBron is like one of the only players who deals with the backlash of making moves as if he's the GM. All these guys are GMs. The reason that LeBron's considered a GM and it's such a negative connotation there is because he ultimately left Cleveland and went to Miami in the middle of his prime. So he has to deal with it.
So where do we go from here with LeBron then? Because clearly he's out of his prime, but like being out of your prime is different for LeBron for any other player. I mean, he still put it like averaging like what it was like 38 and 6 this season.
Right.
So he's still putting up numbers.
Yeah.
But it's towards the end, and he wants to go to LA and be remembered as a legendary Laker. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to just be remembered as a championship that a ton of people, whether fairly or unfairly, put an asterisk by that bubble championship.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him going to like the New York Knicks or the Miami Heat and finding a way to get another real duo going. And that's the way NBA championships have always worked. And people kind of forget that, is that they seem to pretend that a player can just stick around with an organization and it always just works out. And it's like, realistically, you saw with the Milwaukee Bucks even this last year. People forget Chris Middleton was the closer for that organization. They didn't just kick the ball to Giannis anymore.
Yep.
Chris Middleton stepped up. When Michael Jordan's winning NBA championships, instead of having the ball in Michael Jordan's hands with the game on the line, they threw the ball to Scottie Pippen to be able to make plays, and Michael was the closer to be able to take final shots. And these are the roles that need to happen for championship teams. So if LeBron is playing on a team when your best wingman cannot stay on the floor, you essentially know that it's going to be you and a bunch of guys that we can't name, and that's not a title contender. So LeBron, most likely, if they can't make some home run of a move via the trade market, and that's really their only option, then I can't see how he doesn't explain to his fans that, look, I can't win. My number one priority is winning. I want to go to an organization that can win. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I can actually see, and this might actually blow some people away, I can actually see LeBron and Steph Curry finding a way to play together.
Stop.
Thank you. I said that a month ago.
I am gonna pray so hard for Jesus Christ to come back. I do not want to see it.
No, I'm telling you, an Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, and maybe James Wiseman trade for LeBron makes sense for both organizations.
I just don't want it. I'm sorry. I think it obviously blew my mind, Gary. And I've heard some of these rumors, but me as a Warriors fan, just as a basketball fan, I really don't want to see it at all. Like I just want that rivalry. I want these guys to be on separate teams consistently, always have that rivalry, potentially have the only time I want to see them play on the same team is in an All-Star game. That's at least for me, but my God, that would blow the sports world up if they went
I understand
to the same
it.
team.
I honestly get it, because both organizations, and this is something that I'm trying to help people get, is that Golden State also could use a player like LeBron. And you saw with Golden State, when you deal with a long run into June, the bodies of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they're very important to stay on the floor. But when you have a guy who can control the basketball, especially late in games like LeBron or KD can, it's very beneficial to these organizations. And you saw in the past, Draymond Green and Steph Curry and all these guys are completely open to taking the best player in the world, if not the second best player in the world, and bringing them onto their roster to potentially win more titles. And ultimately, if the goal is to win titles, then I'm sure both sides could look at it and say, why not?
Follow-up question for that, and then I want to get your take real quick on the MVP. is would the Warriors be able to afford him then? Because you bring up people like Kuminga, like that was an absolute steal. Not enough people talk about that at all. And then it's like Wiseman, what are you going to do with him? How are you going to be able to still construct a roster while adding somebody like a legend like LeBron and without losing a bunch of key players that could be your future?
It's the Wiggins contract that makes it possible. But yeah, Gary, I'll let you go off on it.
Yeah, no, you hit it on the nail on the head. It's Wiggins is going to be the guy who's the main contractual. He's going to be the big swap there because I mean he's making some coin. Obviously, LeBron's making a lot more, but that's going to help offset some of those contracts. And ultimately, when you have a team, and the Golden State Warriors are honestly a perfect fit because their best player to wingman with LeBron James is what LeBron plays well with. A guy who's the ultimate spacer. Steph Curry has changed the game of basketball by redefining space in the NBA. It's not just shooting, it's his ability to shoot changes the way the rest of the floor looks.
And how he gets open. I always tell people, Gary, just don't watch Steph Curry when he just gets the ball. Watch how he gets open. While he uses a screen that's not technically even set for him, he might even use another defender as a screen for him, and he is running around like crazy. But he's always so calculated about how he's going to find a way to get open. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah, so if you had LeBron and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on a roster, well, how many 3-and-D players do you hypothetically really need? The Warriors are probably going to look at it and say, we have two guys who are fit like gloves for LeBron James' skill set. If we kick him the ball in the fourth quarter, we've seen LeBron can still get it done. So if Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are on the wings with LeBron James at the top of the key, it's like, what are you going to do as a team? To be honest with you, that's probably the best fit other than maybe like a Kevin Durant as his wingman.
Man, I wouldn't mind seeing KD come back. That would be
right.
This would just be wild. But before we let you go, Gary, I want your MVP take and then who you think is going to come out of the West and who do you think is going to come out of the East and contend for the title?
To me, it's Joel Embiid. He's the MVP to me. I know that Jokic is playing very well, and especially with the supporting cast, but ultimately I feel like Joel Embiid has just played the best season. And it's not about stat padding. It's about just overall impact on the game. He's their defensive anchor. He's the best defensive player on their floor at all given times. And not to mention the fact they brought in James Harden, which makes Joel Embiid's job that much harder on the defensive end. So to me, the MVP is his. I know Giannis is trying to make a late push with the scoring, but I just can't give it to him. It's just too late of a charge. But in terms of who's coming out of the East and West, it's my hometown Phoenix Suns. I've got to give the Phoenix Suns, I've got to give them credit for what they've done. I'd agree with you. Bridges, to me, is the defensive player of the year. He switches onto anybody. He switches onto bigs. He's playing guards. If a Lillard, per se, was in front of him, he's staying in front of those guys. He's able to block shots at the rim. He does everything. He is Draymond Green of today. Bridges he's the defensive player of the year. The Phoenix Suns, to me, have to come out. And in the East, I still think Milwaukee comes out of the East. It wouldn't surprise me because they know their roles. These teams know their roles. These guys, Giannis understands what he's doing. He knows when to step back, and I think Milwaukee Suns rematch, and I think Phoenix takes them.
Oh, wow, that would be that would be a fun rematch because that was another kind of epic collapse too. They had that 2-0 lead, and the Suns want revenge. And I know Devin Booker, he wants some respect when it comes to the MVP conversation, and he wants some respect in building his legacy. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Gary, tell the people where they can follow you. I know you're on Outkick.com. I was writing some great articles, but where can they follow you on social media?
Yeah, just Gary Sheffield Jr. on all platforms. Have a podcast called Chef Talk on NYY News TV on YouTube. And obviously on Outkick.com, as you guys mentioned. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys.
All right, Gary, we're going to have you back on because I know baseball opening day is starting tomorrow. I'm not as excited as I should be because the A's have spent $0. I guess they're trying to save money for Cali gas prices or something. But, Gary, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, guys. And, yeah, my Yankees got rained out, so I'm sad too. But Tiger Woods, baby.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
All right, that is Gary Sheffield Jr., legend. I know I was talking about earlier. I wanted to get him on for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Gary does a great job at Outkick.com. He's always been in the sports scene. You know, obviously when you got a legendary dad like that, he's been able to take himself to another level in the sports media atmosphere. So Gary does a great job. We're definitely going to try to get him on some more. Before we transition into what the White House had to say about men competing in women's sports, I do want to bring up a little bit more NBA. So I know Nikola Jokic did not get brought up at all in that little conversation. Nikola Jokic, I do believe, is not going to win the MVP because I just don't feel like his team has been able to do enough compared to the 76ers with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, I think he's going to finish the season. I'm a little bit different from you.
Yeah.
I think he's going to finish as the top scorer in the NBA. Looks like LeBron's going to sit out, but it's been a great season, so he deserves a lot of love. This final thing in the NBA, this NBA satire Twitter account absolutely trolled Stephen A. to the freaking moon. And you love to see it because Stephen A., there's nothing that pisses him off more than Kyrie Irving. He just told him he's selfish. He told him, we talked about this on so many podcasts, like, just get the jab. I can't believe you think about yourself over your team. Are you guys even going to have a chance to win a championship? And he wants to find any way to say that Kyrie Irving was some sort of cancer, personality-wise, inside of that locker room. So check out this video and how Stephen A. got duped.
Especially when Kyrie looked him in the face, according to reports, and told him, you washed up. He said that to him. Yeah. That's part of the reason they had to falling out in Brooklyn.
Wow.
According to reports, because I know that this is from, get this,
Yeah.
It's called Ball Sack Sports.
It's like the Babylon Bee of sports, like, reporting. And so they make up, what they do is they make up fake quotes and tweet them out and make them look like as if it's real. And so, like, basically, yeah, John had said this. Imagine if, like, you know, Brian Stelter or Don Lemon or whoever the heck, you know, is on CNN, MSNBC. Imagine if they went on and reported an article from, like, The Onion or Babylon Bee as if it was, you know, real news. That's what Stephen A. Smith just did, which, I mean, what a fool. Like, I don't know what else to say about it.
The thing that's great, too, is Stephen A., he does a great job pissing people off. And one person that he's pissed off big time, I know I just threw this in the chat, producers, what Kevin Durant had to say about this. So, obviously, Ballsack Sports quoted this tweet, and they just had these crying emojis and said, according to reports, but Kevin Durant ended up trolling him as well and doubling down on this and making sure that Stephen A. was really feeling this. He just quoted that and said, got your ass. It's so good to see. I know we're going to try to put that up on the screen for you guys, for everybody watching, but everybody listening. That's what KD ended up doing, and it is so dang funny. You just love to see it.
Absolutely incredible. But, you know, Stephen A., just as with the Lakers, I am here to celebrate your funeral. So I don't really care. He's an absurdist. So it was only a matter of time until he got this way, because Stephen A. Smith used to be, and I have listened to a lot of, you know, sports commentators over the years. Back in the day, Stephen A. Smith was a very, like, respectable name. Like, he outworked everybody. He was always on the radio.
Quite frankly, with Stephen A. Smith was one of my favorite shows I ever watched.
Yeah.
It was like that and Jim Rome is Burning. I thought those two shows were so fun.
Yeah, exactly. But now Stephen A. Smith has become a caricature of Stephen A. Smith. And so what he does is just not good. It's all about drama. It's all about clicks. It's clickbaity. And so it was a matter of time. This was going to happen eventually because of the way he discusses sports.
All right, so we're moving on to this. So obviously we've talked so much on this podcast, and I think it's been amazing that we've been one of the only outlets that are really covering a lot of what's going on with transgender in sports. And so many people are asking, like, well, you guys are talking about this all the time, but looking at, like, more, it's encouraging more people to speak up. Like, we had Seth Houston. That's a great Sunday conversation. We always have those come out on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys are not subscribed to our YouTube channel at all, you got to make sure you head over to Breakaway, because once again, this is the last time we are going live on Turning Point USA's YouTube channel. So follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. Make sure you press subscribe, hit that bell button so you get the notifications, because people like Seth Houston, swim coach for Rice, is first time he had a very lengthy conversation about why this is wrong. And then we also had Gabby DeLoof and Erica Brown, pro swimmers, talk about this months ago. And then we just had Beth Stelzer that I told you about. That was our other Sunday conversation, Save Women's Sports. We're continuing to talk about this because it's a big cultural issue. There's a lot of people listening right now. I don't really watch women's sports, Brian. I just don't, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
No matter what Buick says, like only 10% of the Women's March Madness gets media coverage. There aren't sponsorship dollars, and it's just not that popular. But in general, they deserve fair play.
Yeah.
They definitely deserve some more credit because there's some incredible athletes out there, and that's why I'm glad that this put swimming on the map. There's some incredible swimmers out there, but there's simple questions, Brian. Simple. Is this fair? And this isn't some sort of gotcha moment. This is just a simple question of, is this fair to have biological men in women's sports? And then another simple question of, what is a woman? Everything has just gotten so complicated. So when Peter Ducey, Fox News reporter, the only one that's really asking questions at these briefings, press secretary Jen Psaki, who's going to end up going to MSNBC very, very soon. She wants out. She got the question. We're about to play this video from Peter Ducey. Simple. Jen, from your perspective and the perspective of the Biden administration, is this fair? Her answer won't really shock you.
Okay, a question about college sports. In some places like the Ivy League now, there are biological males competing against women. Does the White House think that is fair?
Well, I would note that we're not the governing body for the NCAA or any other system out there that I believe you're probably referring to the case over in swimming in the NCAA. We understand how important sports are to student athletes across the country, but the NCAA obviously puts these policies in place. What I would say, Peter, if we look at this broadly, is that we celebrated International Transgender Day of Visibility last week with a slate of new actions to ensure we are continuing we continue to protect the dignity and identity of all Americans. And at a moment where we're looking at and we're seeing increased mental health issues related to young people, especially LGBTQ plus young people, we're providing additional funding and resources to address this issue. And we hope all leaders can focus on those important issues and the impact on many of these young people who are impacted across the country.
And excuse me, Brian, let me just go off on this.
All right.
She clearly does not care about women's sports at all. That is just such a stupid PR campaign and deflecting from a simple question. You think you care about women? You're bringing up Transgender Visibility Day. Nobody's saying that transgenders can't compete in the workforce and be a part of society and be who you want to be and change your name. Everybody's conflating it into that BS. That if she said, no, it's not fair, she turns into a transphobe. No, she stands for equality and fairness in sports. This is wrong. And there's so much stuff that's going on across the country. It's not just about swimming. Everybody is constantly just trying to break this down to this. And also, Jen, we know you're not the NCAA. You are with the most powerful people in the country. You can push companies to push policy. You can push the NCAA to make a decision on this. You can influence the culture here and help actually protect women. What they're doing right now is they are protecting men at the expense of women. Charlie Kirk's asked the question. Everybody is asked the question, especially on the conservative side, which has got to tell you everything you need to know about this issue, that you have the loudest conservative voices that are saying, we want to protect women. And they're protecting men at the expense of women. It's wrong.
So over here at Turning Point USA, we say big gov sucks all the time. So from your perspective then, John, should we involve government in this? Should the federal government make a law about, transgender men not being able to compete in women's sports?
I think federally, like they just have to have some sort of influence. I don't think they should be, because that's when it starts to get authoritarian and tyrannical, like we saw so much over the past few years. It's a tough question. But I think you need to empower more states to make decisions like Arizona has.
Yeah.
Like Florida has. Like, that's the beauty of our country, is you should have state leaders like Governor Ron DeSantis that said, Emma Wyant, you are the actual winner of the 500-yard freestyle. And I am not going to allow biological males to compete in women's sports. He takes action right away. But look at from the federal government, they're afraid to give an answer. Because everyone doesn't, like, everyone, I think, too, I've posted so much about this, and they're like, do you know the suicide rate? Do you know how many people in the LGBTQIA plus community are hurting themselves? Stop saying that people like me and on the conservative side are the reason for that. Listen to what I say, and listen to what so many people, so many prominent voices, they aren't being bullies. There are some stupid people out there that like to attack Leah Thomas, which I don't think is the way to go. Mm-hmm. Here, we are telling, the best way you can love someone is tell them the truth. And the best way you can protect women is by making sure that not only men are out of the pool, off the field, off the track, they need to be out of changing rooms. They need to be out of restrooms. This is more than just about not being on the podium or not being able to compete for a national championship. There are psychological issues that Beth Stelzer brought that up to, once again, the founder of Save Women's Sports, to break down the psychological damage that's not only happening now, but could be happening later for biological women. And also, there's so much damage they are doing to transgenders to tell people that in this country, you can be who you want, but if you continue to lie to people, that's only hurting them more. I know you brought up some great stats yesterday about this, and we're going to keep talking about this because this is so important to me, and I want people, because sports is the ability to bring us together unlike anything else. I say that all the time too, Brian, and this is dividing us once again. It's not helping Leah. It's not helping any transgender. It's not helping women. It's not helping sports fans. It's not helping parents. This is not helping our country.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, kids live in a confusing world already. Like, I mean, I remember back. I mean, I'm not that old. You're trying to figure out your place in the world, and now we're living in this world of affirmation where these kids are confused. They got a lot of problems going on, and there's a lot of this transgenderism shit going around. And the minute that they start saying, "I think I might be," social media kind of removes the question from them, and it says, yes, we support you, be your best self. And they kind of get, and look, I don't have any numbers in front of me about this, but what they kind of do is this has been talked about a lot. They get railroaded and almost peer pressured into moving forward with something that they don't fully understand. And so you get these 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds that end up getting put on puberty blockers and, basically chemically are altering their body. And one of the saddest things about this is what happens with a lot of them is, the boys, because they are right at the time of puberty, they are suppressing their testosterone. They're suppressing the natural order of things, and they end up getting micropenises, or the girls in their 20s have to get hysterectomies, and a lot of these kids end up sterile, meaning you have just robbed them of what might be the greatest thing that a human being can do, which is create life. And that is the biggest tragedy of all of this, that we are in a determination to be woke and to support a marginalized group. I think you're actually forgetting the individual and the future that they could have because of the confusing state they're in right now. And that is why I will continue to fight, at the very least, to just keep it away from the kids. If you're 18 and you want to do this stuff, by all means, be that person. I will fight to defend your liberty to be who you want to be after 18.
Exactly, because you're adults now. You can make your own decisions, but now, like, pushing this stuff on kids where there's irreversible damage.
Yeah.
Like, just think about some of the decisions you made when you were maybe like 12, 13.
I was an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, think about the decisions you even made when you were an adult, when you became 18, like 18 to 21. Yeah. I know we just had Amala Epinobi from PragerU on TBUSA Live yesterday, And she's 21, and we're just like, man, you're so well put together for 21. Like, I remember some of the decisions I made when I was 21.
Yeah.
I was a dummy. But you're still an adult.
Yeah.
And you can make some dumb decisions, but I don't think I never made a decision that was irreversible. So I think that's why we're going to continue to talk about this. Final thing for that, too, Riley Gaines. She ended up getting 5th place. She tied with Leah Thomas in the 200-yard freestyle. And there was reports coming out from every outlet like Outkick.com, New York Post. She still doesn't have her trophy. But I know she ended up talking about on the Unmuted podcast with actually Senator Marsha Blackburn. And remember Riley Gaines, she swam for Kentucky. She was talking about how she was just taken back, where you're putting these women in these positions where it's like, I can't believe we're in this situation.
Yeah.
But also, too, it's like, I'm going to do whatever I can to compete well. And I think they wish Leah well and everything, but you're seeing things here with, like, she doesn't have her trophy, and she's so interested to figure out, like, why is this happening? The NCAA is not speaking up, and there's also a lot of cowardly coaches that aren't saying anything, or people in power in administrations at big schools. So that just needs to happen. So we're always going to keep you updated with that too. I know I actually had some U of A swimmers that had an open letter to the NCAA that are just trying to have a seat at the table. Potentially we're going to be able to have them on, a former national champion. They had a former coach of the year from U of A legendary swim program. So we're going to try to get them on in the future. So, and also too, if you're just tuning in, whether you're watching or listening, we have a full video of my conversations with protesters and supporters from the NCAA Division I Women's Swimming Championship in Atlanta, Georgia at Georgia Tech University. We also have those 2 Sunday conversations. I highly suggest you check those out. And when you watch those, make sure you share those with your friends. We also have some great reels on Instagram at TeepUSA Breakaway. A lot of good content we're doing there. And I'm very happy and thrilled that people like Seth Houston are like sending some people my way. I know he's had a few people reach out to me and say, I want to tell my story. And I think this is a turning point, Brian. It's a major pun intended. We have a chance to make a difference here.
Wow. I think we've hit our quota. We've done 2 of those.
You hear that, Charlie?
No more.
Turning point. Yeah. All right. Now it's time.
Speaking of Charlie.
Woo! Speaking of spicy, it's time for the Kirk's Hot Sauce Spicy Hot Take. All right. So usually when we do the spicy hot take, sometimes we each have a spicy hot take. Sometimes one person has a spicy hot take. This one, I think we're kind of double teaming this hot take. Brian,
we're collabing on it.
Take it away.
So basically, as the standings sit right now for the NBA, especially with the play-in game, this is subject to change. But right now, as it sits, the Heat in the East, the Heat are the 1 seed, and the Nets would be the 8 seed. The Nets are a great team, though. Nothing against the Heat. The Nets just haven't been able to be healthy. There's been the Kyrie Irving drama. But remember, this is Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. These are 2 of the best players in basketball. So John remembers really well. In 2007, the We Believe team. It wasn't the most recent time that an 8 seed has beat a 1 seed. In 2011, the Grizzlies did do it to the Spurs. But I believe for only the second time since the We Believe team, and John agrees with me on this, the Nets will upset the Heat and an 8 seed will beat. If things hold as they are right now, the Nets as the 8 seed would beat the number 1 Heat.
Woo! That's spicy. You got to love this. So I'm going to move right there. Boom. We Believe. This was the most fun year as a Warriors fan. A lot of people asking me, like, well, we had that great stretch of runs making it to the championship. When your team is down and out and everybody is doubting you, nobody thinks you're going to do it. You're just an 8 seed. No one's really doing this at all. You guys are just a ragtag bunch of people. You had Jason Richardson. You had Baron Davis. You had Andrews Biedrins.
Monte Ellis.
And you had Matt Barnes. You had such a, like, these are almost like the most Oakland guys ever, like the most Bay Boys kind of stuff. Like you would roll up to an open gym, and it's like, dude, these guys ball out, and I also would never want to mess with them.
Well, and it was Coach Don Nelson, right? The amount of stories of this guy, there were, I don't know if this is true, but there were stories and rumors that he would crack a couple beers at halftime.
Dude, yes. Like, those aren't rumors. That happened. That guy, I guarantee you, that guy absolutely just ripped fatties before the game, probably slugged a few beers, and then went out and said, "Who's number one? We'll take him out." I think the Nets are going to do it.
Because they're not really an 8 seed, if we're being honest. Like, the talent level is not an 8 seed. The talent level is a top 4 team in the East. And then on top of that, like, dude, I just don't like betting against Kevin Durant. He's the most certified bucket in the NBA.
And then also Kyrie, you know for sure he is ready to ball out. And he's been there before too. Remember, like, he's been in playoffs, he's been in big games. He won a championship with the Cavs, and they've had a couple disappointing playoff runs that they are ready to say vaccine mandate later, mask mandate later. They want to say Heat, sayonara. Thanks for the memories. You guys got a great squad. You got Tyler Hero that has been – he had a great run in the bubble too, and he's been a fun guy to watch too. You got Jimmy Buckets and everything, but you were playing against a team that almost feels like a little bit they got something to prove. And I'm not going to say fully they got nothing to lose, but a little bit where it's like, all right, you guys want to see what this team actually could have done during the regular season if we didn't go through all this political nonsense and all this nonsense you hear from people like Stephen A. Smith and other people trying to talk about how, there was personality things that were going on and James Harden and blah, blah, blah. It's probably because of the existing guys on the team. No, Nets are ready to do some big things, but do you think that's going to be like, is that going to go to the full series? Or you think that it's almost going to be even more shocking than we thought? Because I know the Dubs ended up beating the Mavs in 6 games.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, let's see, the Grizzlies in San Antonio was in 6 games as well, 4-2.
Another Sixer?
I think that's the way you got to do it. I think if you're going to be an 8 seed that knocks off a 1 seed, you can't let it get back to Game 7 in their house. That's why I think 6 games is the blueprint. You have to beat them in 6 because if it goes to Game 7 in their house, I think the 1 seed will take care of business. As you named off all those players for the Heat are a good team. Like, I mean,
they are
and
good.
Spoelstra, I think, pound for pound, Spoelstra might be the best NBA head coach. Obviously, like, I don't mean this year. Like, this year, it's clearly either money or Ime Udoka from the Celtics, but like as just like body of work, I think it's Spoelstra. He always seems to do the most with the least. And so like the Heat are good, but I believe.
Wow, that's gonna be another. Are they gonna switch it up? It's gonna say I believe.
They play iso ball maybe.
But yeah, once again with the Heat too, they got Kyle Lowry, they got Victor Oladipo, they got a good team.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a really fun series and maybe the most competitive and somewhat balanced 8-1 that we've ever seen in the NBA.
Yeah, so I mean, fingers crossed that it holds the way it is right now because I really want to see this. I want to see the Heat number 1. I want to see the Nets number 8 and have to go against each other because that would be so much fun.
Okay, we are wrapping up the show here, and as we wrap up, before we get into our final thing, that one of the things that I'm most excited about, please, it's the last time we're here on Turning Point USA's YouTube. We are not going to be going live doing these Breakaway live shows at all. You got to head over to the Breakaway YouTube channel, press subscribe, and press the ball. The ball. Sports ball. That's all I'm thinking about. The bell. Click on the bell, and you'll make sure you get notified. It goes straight to you when we are going live on there. Any new video posted, because we've had some big-time guests on this show, too. Like, for people that are just tuning in, we've had Ennis Cantor, Michael Chandler, Cameron Haynes, Steve Weatherford. We've had some big names, and we're doing big things, because no one's talking about the stuff we talk about to this extent.
Well, and there's a couple really big interviews coming up. Like, I'm not going to, drop anything on you yet, but we got some really, really cool names coming up that you're going to want to listen to.
Hopefully that's on the edge of your seat. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at TPUSA Breakaway. I'm going to tell you all about our podcast right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, El Tigre is back. Tiger Woods, the most popular golfer of all time.
Of course.
No doubt. He's one of those people that has had about 375 back surgeries, about shattered his leg into about 1,000 pieces in that Hyundai, and he's had some incredible comebacks.
What was he doing driving a Hyundai, dude?
Whoa, okay. I drive a Hyundai. Hyundai like Sunday. It's fresh. 2015 Hyundai Sonata, standard edition.
That Korean engineering, you know?
Oh, yeah. Dude, it's nice. It's silver, and I call it the Silver Bullet. It's a fantastic machine. All right? You can't call shotgun. You're not getting a ride. But Tiger...
I drive an American-made car, so, you know.
All right. You got that on me. Tiger, when he was asked if he was going to be competitive, Tiger doesn't jump into tournaments and say, I hope that I make the cut. It's a good time here at Augusta. And, hopefully Hideki Matsuyama has, another great year. And, it's going to be fun watching the young guys. No, this guy is here to win. He wants to put on that green jacket again. And he said, and that's what you got to love. Like, everyone talks about the Mamba mentality, but the Tiger mentality, that guy, as a dog. That is a dog,
dude.
And he's
absolute sicko.
It's weird to call him a dog since his name is Tiger, but I'm not gonna call him a cat.
Yeah,
that's a killer cat right there. Like, he goes into a tournament, and when he was asked, do you think you're gonna win? Do you think you're gonna be competitive? He's like, of course, I'm gonna do it. So, what do you think? How do you think Tiger's gonna do in the Masters? And remember too, the par 3 tournament is happening. I think it's going on right now. No one that's ever won the par 3 tournament, they always do that on the Wednesday before the tournament starts at Augusta for the Masters. No one has ever won the par 3 and won the tournament, but it's always really fun there. How do you think Tiger's going to do?
Oh, man, I was trying to jump over and see what his odds were.
I can look that up.
Look that up. Like, basically, I think Tiger's going to do well. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I just don't foresee him stepping up to the plate in this way and taking it.
If he won, that would be the greatest comeback in the history of sports.
Oh yeah, it'd be incredible.
No, 100%.
I'm rooting for it, but I'm not expecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you see his odds anywhere?
All right, come on, FanDuel. Where's the golf at? I'm gonna try to find this golf here.
Rory's at 18-1.
Let's see. Okay,
Koepka's
so
at 20-1.
John Rahm is the best odds at plus 1,200. Yeah. So anytime anybody that's jumping into betting here, even a winner, picking a winner for a golf tournament is one of the most difficult things on earth.
Well, yeah, because basically somebody can develop the slightest little, 1 degree change in their swing, and it messes them up for multiple holes in a row. Whereas Tiger, our producer is telling us that Tiger's at 50-1. So hey, you want to make some cash, dude? Go throw it on Tiger.
Yeah, plus 5,000. He's ahead of, or actually, he's the same as Bryson DeChambeau.
Well, I'm just still upset that Phil's not going to be competing.
I know, that is a bummer. I love Lefty.
Yeah, dude. He was always my go-to. If I didn't know who to bet on, I'd just go throw some on Phil.
Dude, that guy is, man, he's gone through a lot. I know that's something you can go back and listen to one of our podcasts breaking down what happened with the Saudi League and everything he had to say about that, and how KPMG and all these sponsors said sayonara. It's crazy. It's a bummer because he's one of the most popular players too.
Well, everything I've ever heard about Phil is he's just an incredible human being. And there's a hilarious story of when he first met his wife. He's a young man, and she was talking to him and she asked him what he does, and he's like, oh yeah, I play golf for a living, and she was just like, I didn't know you could do that. And so he was just very, very humble about the whole thing. He is just a good guy, and also go Devils.
Hey. But who do you got as we wrap up here? Who do you got winning the Masters, or who are you going to be rooting for?
Rooting for Tiger, of course.
Other than Tiger,
Rahm is another ASU Sun Devil, so it's also really tough for me to go against him. But I don't want to be chalky and just pick the guy who's the odds-on favorite. So I'd like to see Rory get another win. I like Rory.
Rory's plus 1,900 right now. I got Patrick Cantlay.
Okay.
I think he's going to get it done. I think Dustin Johnson's going to be in the top 5 as well. I think right now they got Dustin Johnson, 1, 2, 3, 4. He 5th. best odds right now, or actually third. You got 3 people tied for third. You got Scheffler and you got Cameron Smith, who just won a big tournament as well. That was a great little. If you guys go to YouTube or something too, maybe we should try to pull that and put that on our own Instagram. But just like for me, I had family members, my brother and sister-in-law, that were out in Australia. I wasn't able to see them for like over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had this tournament where finally his family was able to come out and watch him play. He won the tournament. He got reunited with his family. It's an incredible time. But this has been an incredible time. Before we let you go, once again, I've said it many times while we've been on this podcast, this is the last time we are going live on Turning Point USA's YouTube channel. So head on over to Breakaway YouTube channel. Everybody listening to, whether you're on Apple or Spotify, obviously make sure that you follow, subscribe, leave a review there. Whether you're watching or listening, go over to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 1K. We're trying to do that probably within the next, I think, 6 weeks. Something like that. In 6 weeks, we want to have 1,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So I think we can do that with your help. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at TPUSA Breakaway. Also, always feel free to flood our DMs. Hit me up. It's at JohnnyRoot _ If there's stuff you want to hear on the podcast or ways that you want to help support us, definitely let us know. But Brian, this has been a lot of fun. We got a Sunday conversation that's coming out. It's going to be fantastic. We have a Oklahoma University volleyball player that was basically pushed out by her coach and her other teammates because she didn't like all the diversity and inclusion and social justice stuff that was being shoved down her throat. She's
woke nonsense.
Woke nonsense. She actually has a lawsuit, and she was able to play for Ole Miss this last year and take them from the dumps to a tournament appearance. It's going to be a great conversation. Subscribe, follow, review. We love you guys. Go Sports. This has been Breakaway. I'm John Root, Brian Farnsworth. Later.